The Penguin is a new TV series set in the DC universe, specifically a spin-off of the Batman movie directed by Matt Reeves. It stars Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobb, also known as the Penguin, who was a prominent secondary character in the Batman. The show dives into the dark, crime-ridden world of Gotham City, picking up after the events of the movie and showcasing Oswald's rise to power. The series explores the Penguin's life in the criminal underworld as he seizes an opportunity to gain control in the chaos left after Gotham's mob boss Carmine Falcone's downfall. In the show, Oz pits Carmine's unhinged daughter Sophia against her family's rivals, the Maronis, picking up the pieces as he climbs through the ranks. Early on in the show, the Penguin recruits Victor Aguilar as his protege and driver, a mild-mannered teenager with a stutter who lost his family in the Riddler's flooding of Gotham. Victor was initially in the process of stealing from Oz and was going to be killed for it, but Vic convinces Oz to keep him alive. From there, Victor becomes close with Oz, standing by him during his lowest moments, tending to the Penguin's sick mother and being given important tasks by Oz, like mutilating Alberto Falcone's corpse and delivering it to his sister. He turns down an opportunity to leave Gotham with his girlfriend, instead becoming more entrenched into the underworld, even committing murder, and Victor is instrumental in securing victory for Oz in his gangland war. Eventually, thanks in part to Victor's resourcefulness, the gang leaders of Gotham are killed by their number twos, Sophia is sent back to Arkham, and Salvatore Maroni dies. Oz wins, becoming king of Gotham with Vic at his side. But shockingly, in the duo's final scene together as they take in their victory and reminisce on their bonding, Oz suddenly chokes out Victor, killing him and leaving his body there. It's a crazy ending to the duo, and their relationship is something I wanted to discuss today. But before we get into why Oz killed Victor, I actually wanted to discuss why he took him on in the first place. As I mentioned in a previous video, Oz hiring Victor instead of killing him seemed a strange choice. Why would he need this random kid when he has trained killers working for him? For sure, it serves a narrative purpose, as Victor is essentially an audience surrogate. He is the closest thing in this show to the viewer, an outsider, someone who the Penguin can deliver exposition to so we know what's going on. But in universe, I did find Oz's decision weird. But I did find a few reasons. Of course, in later scenes, Oz plays up the similarities between the two men, and the fact that Vic resembles Oz in his youth, the idea of a guy from a lower income area who wants a better life full of luxuries and status. Oz has a disability, and Victor has his speech impairment. Perhaps something just clicked in Oz to take a chance on this kid. Plus, the guys working for the Penguin in the beginning of the show are not really his guys. They work for the Falcone family, so they are not loyal to him. This is a chance to have someone under his wing who is indebted to him and him alone, who he can send on intimate jobs like taking care of his mum. Other mobsters don't even know Frances is alive. Oz spread the news that she was dead to protect her, so if he sent another underling to look after her, the news could get out. You know, I recently finished a show called Succession, and I was reminded a lot of Tom and Greg in Oz and Vic's relationship. Like Tom, among Oz's own circles, he's not taken seriously. Johnny Vitti, Sophia, and others don't really think much of him. He's not respected. But like when Greg comes along, Victor is an opportunity for Oz to exercise power and influence over someone. A chance for him to feel good about himself by pumping himself up to this kid. And like Tom, somewhere along the way he developed genuine affection for the guy. I find it interesting also that the gangster Rex says to Oz's mother that you can manipulate kids who need a father figure, that these kind of kids make the most loyal gangsters. Now Oz wasn't there when Rex said this, but he could have mentioned it to Oz later. In any case, it's pretty much what Oz did. He manipulated Vic throughout the show. He gave the kid a strong figure to look up to be inspired by. He consoled him, hugged him even when Vic committed his first murder. You could argue that Oz had Victor clocked from the moment he met him and utilized Victor's PTSD from the flood, his loneliness and lack of direction. Going back to Vic's death, it makes sense for Oz to kill Vic, as from a narrative point of view, killing the closest thing to an innocent character, whose journey we have followed through the 8 episodes, cements Oz as a villain and a monster. One of the issues the Penguin could have faced is that when following a villain for as long as we did, we could end up liking him, maybe even buying into his own rhetoric about being a man of the people, thinking of him as an anti-hero. But what the show does here is remove any doubt that Oz is a clear and cut villain, so we can go back to hating him in time for the Batman 2. It's clear that the Penguin wants to live in a fantasy world, where he sees himself as a man of the people, a son who did right by his mother. I don't want to talk too much about Frances here because I want to discuss her in a separate video, but she pretty much admits she knew what he did. She hates him, and she has always hated him. Then she has her stroke and becomes an invalid. Previously, she had said to Oz that she wants him to kill her before her disease takes a hold of her. Yet he goes against this wish. A tear drops in her final scene, most probably from being trapped in this inescapable nightmare with a son she despises, but he interprets her tear to signify the beauty of the station they have reached. Then he dances with the woman who he has dressed as his mother. He is out of touch and prefers to live in this fantasy. Victor is a reminder of that fantasy. He is the only person alive who knows the full truth. As Oz says, he's been there in Oz's most intimate moments, most private moments, times when Oz has failed, and a guy like that has gotta go to solidify the fantasy. And not just that, but given what Vic knows, he could blackmail Oz. He could turn on him. After all, didn't the Gangland master plan involve all the gang leaders killed by their second in command? A plan that Vic himself may have initiated along with the Asian gangster's underling. Vic is the only person close enough to Oz to stab him in the back. But it isn't just that. Oz straight up tells Victor why he's killing him while he's doing the deed. He does like him, but that's why he does it. Are we forgetting that Oz got his own brothers killed? And Victor in this scene says that Oz is his family, which should send a signal to us in that we've seen how Oz treats his family. He may like Vic, but this love is a weakness. The reason he almost lost the war was because of his love for his mother. His attachment to Victor could have similar repercussions, a rival kidnapping him maybe and using Vic against him. So it's better to nip it in the bud and take Vic out so he can be truly invincible and untouchable. A concrete wall that cannot be got to. He refuses to show the emotional weakness he previously has done so, instead committing to being a cold, ruthless villain. It's a sick and inhumane act that reinforces that Oz is a monster who is willing to betray anyone and everyone to gain more power, even those he cares about. And let's not forget, Oz was going to kill Victor anyway in the first episode, and there was never a suggestion that he would let him live past the stage where he stopped being useful. It was just that he inadvertently became fond of Vic. But instead of this saving Vic's life, it doubled down for Oz that he has to kill him. I do think there could also be a hint of jealousy from Oz. Vic was competent enough to turn the henchmen against their leaders, and he got the nice compliments from Oz's mum that the Penguin himself has been chasing all these years. Do we really need to talk about what he did to his own brothers out of jealousy and a need to eliminate competition for his mother's affection? There is a scene where Frances, Oz and Vic are having dinner, and Frances compliments Vic on the way he's taking care of her, and Oz makes a strange look, which we can now determine, seeing his past, that was pure jealousy. There's also the thing about Oz wanting to go legit, to become truly untouchable by becoming embedded into City Hall. The councilman says to him that he has to be clean, that the Penguin is being looked into for corruption. So Oz must sever ties with Victor in order to become clean. As he says, I can't take you this time. How can a high-ranking legitimate politician be running around with a teenage criminal from the street who knows all his past? He must eliminate him, so no one ever knows the full story and so he can climb the ranks. There's also a classism element which is intrinsic to the show. Here, Oz is moving up in class. He's becoming one of them instead of one of us. And this is best symbolized by killing the young, disadvantaged protege, a kid who resembled him in his youth. He's killing that past. Out with the old and in with the new. Really, it's a question that doesn't need a justification based on Oz's actions throughout the rest of the show. Look how he ditched Sophia when the Maronis attacked them. Look how he ran from the bomb without telling his crew. This guy is a sociopath who is void of genuine emotion, whether he himself knows it or not. He is a manipulator who uses others' love for him, who utilizes others' vulnerabilities. Even his love for his Ma was a selfish kind of love to fulfill his own ego. If he truly loved her, he would have her killed as per her wish, but instead he keeps her alive in a crippled state. Taking the cash and throwing Vic's driving license into the river was a nice touch. Of course, it reinforces that he's a sleazy crook, but it also means Vic will be practically impossible to identify, and the incident is staged as a robbery. And it's a throwback to their first appearance together when Oz takes his license then as well. Colin Farrell has spoken about this scene, saying, he doesn't even know that he doesn't want to be human, but he's basically saying, I don't want to be human with that act. If Victor was just someone that he didn't care about, he wouldn't have to go to such great measures to make sure he wasn't a liability or a vulnerability in his life. It's messed up. There's a bunch of justifications. You know, Victor has seen him at his weakest. It's the same thing he says to Victor in the scene. You've seen me at my lowest and all that. Renzi Fides, who plays Victor, has said, I think it's what he says while he's committing the act. It's that he knows that he's vulnerable in this way now. He's just experienced what it's like to lose his mother, to have his mother taken from him. When you view someone as family, it's strength, like he says. And so I think he wants to become something almost impenetrable. And the way he thinks he can do that is killing his weakness. Everyone else, I think, sees it as, you don't have to do this. He sees it as, the only way I can be invulnerable is to snuff out this flame here. Lauren LaFranc, the show's producer, has said, when you first meet Victor, you think this kid isn't going to last very long. And he doesn't. In a way, he shouldn't have survived the pilot. I think Oz kills Victor because Victor has seen him at his most vulnerable, and because Victor really cares about him and loves him, and because Victor does view him as family. He learned something from how desperate he was when his mother was threatened. I think Oz believes that for him to achieve the next level of power, he cannot have weakness, and he views love and affection and family as weak. Oz has shown himself to be someone who is narcissistic and lives in his own delusion. He has really struggled with receiving love and seeks it out from his mother, but never fully trusts it from people. In so many ways, he is a broken man. When it comes to Victor, it was really important to me that Oz kill him, not because he has any reason to, and Victor did come through for him. It's not because of anything Victor did wrong. I think Oz, in that moment, really chose to kill his own heart and embrace the monster that he is. It is a terrible tragedy, and I've always viewed our show as a tragedy. I hope that people are appalled by what Oz chooses to do, because there's no justifiable reason that we've given for him to do that, which is always important. I think a lot about who dies and when and what people might think about those deaths. Who has power in that moment? Who mistreats somebody else in that moment to create these dark and terrible justifications? So, what do you make of Oz's killing of Victor, and why do you think he did it? Let me know in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.